In today's show, the lawsuit aiming to complicate the sale of the Trailblazers has been dismissed. It's not even going to make it to court. Plus, nobody outside the city thinks the Trailblazers are going to be particularly good. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're talking a lawsuit that came and went, and the end of a very stupid era. A lawsuit aiming to complicate the sale of the Trailblazers has been dismissed. We'll give you the legal update on a dumb saga of a few months. Plus, I rounded up some predictions, like stat-based predictions, and some other folks that are just making predictions, including my own. Nobody thinks the Trailblazers are going to be very good, even though I think in town, a lot of us disagree. Is everybody wrong? Plus, some updates from ahead of the Blazers' third preseason game. Some good news for Matisse, Thybulle, and Rob Williams of sorts, and some stuff to know about Toumani Camara ahead of the Blazers game against the Warriors on Tuesday evening. Let's get into the lawsuit stuff first. So, what a dumb saga this was. You may recall that the Bethalls, the RAJ Sports group, the people that own the Portland Thorns and the Portland Fire, the WNBA team here in Portland, that's Alex Mirage and his sister Lisa Bethal Mirage, they had filed a lawsuit against Andrew and Peggy Cherng. I think it's Cherng, but Andrew and Peggy Cherng, who are the founders and owners of Panda Express, and they had joined Tom Dundon, the future, now seemingly pretty obviously future owner of the Trailblazers. They had joined Dundon's ownership group, and RAJ Sports, the Bethalls, had filed a lawsuit against the Cherns, saying that they had violated an exclusivity agreement and a confidentiality agreement, and they were taking them to court. It wasn't 100% clear, as I said on a previous episode, what exactly the end goal was, whether there was just beef to kind of block them, blocking the Cherns from being part of the ownership group because they were mad, or this like larger play to become the buyers themselves. But it was clear that, even if we didn't know the sort of ultimate outcome, the ultimate goals for the RAJ Sports group, that there was beef and they were mad. And this court case was set to go to court, begin on Wednesday, have its first court hearing on Wednesday of this week, and then Monday, a notice of dismissal was filed. They've reached a settlement without going to court. According to reports from the Oregonian, it is unclear if there was any financial portion of this settlement, but one thing that is clear and important to note from the Oregonian's reporting, that's Matthew Kish and Bill Orr of the Oregonian reported this, that and they're citing an anonymous source. A source with knowledge of the situation said RAJ Sports will not receive any ownership stake in the Blazers if Dundon's deal proceeds. Yeah, duh. Y'all aren't getting in on this. And I think that's kind of, let me read you the official statement, and then I'll get you to my head shaking, exhaling reaction to this. RAJ Sports released the following statement to various members of the press. We are pleased, or I guess just like through their PR firm, we are pleased to have reached a resolution out of court, which we believe recognizes our position while also preserving the future of basketball in Portland. We look forward to working closely with the Trailblazers as the Fire join them at the Moda Center next spring. Here's the problem with this lawsuit. Tom Dundon isn't going to forget this nonsense, and you're going to be co-tenants and not even co-tenants. You're going to be their tenant, because while the Blazers don't technically own the arena based on their agreement with the city, they're the owners and full operators of the arena in every way that it absolutely matters, right? You're not paying the city rent to use the Blazers facility, to share the space with them. It is going to require a business and basketball partnership, and to get into a lawsuit that aims to mess all that up before you become very close shoulder rubbing, elbow rubbing business partners is just stupid bad business. Unless you really had an out, unless you could truly get in that boat, navigate down the waterfall, and get to smoother waters, you are just steering the canoe into the whitewater for no reason backwards. Because, obviously this didn't go to court, right? But from what I understand, reading about this, as reported a couple places, including in The Athletic, the bar that they would have to prove is relatively high. The legal standard that they would have to prove in order to block the Cherns from joining this group is relatively high. We don't have a lot of examples of it, but from the read from like sort of smart sports legal people, that it was unlikely to reach that standard. So really, you're just dragging people into court to make things a little bit harder. And if the goal was to completely blow up the deal and become owners, well, you missed your chance. And it seems like the Blazers went with the other offer. And like I said, it seems like RAJ Sports, although it hasn't been reported what their deal was, but the Oregonian has reported that they were bidders. And my assumption based on the reporting is that they were competitive bidders. I don't know what the ultimate number was, but let's assume that it was in the same ballpark. I think based on all the reporting, it seems like it wasn't like they way underbid, right? No one has said that. They just keep calling them bidders. You didn't win, and then you filed a lawsuit, and then now you're gonna have to work closely with the people you lost to, and then you've created this lawsuit that's kind of aimed to disrupt the sale. It's just bad business. It's silly, but it's also silly, just billionaire frivolousness. I don't actually think maybe in the sort of long term it matters, but I feel like it is going to matter in the spring when both entities are involved, and it's if Tom Dundon is in control, I feel like him not forgetting is up. That's a pretty safe bet. But this does clear the runway for Tom Dundon to become the sole owner of the Portland Trail Blazers. The purchase price of reported $4.25 million. If you'll remember the timeline of this, the RAJ Sports alleges that the Cherns were involved in July with their ownership group trying to put a group together, and that the exclusivity and confidentiality agreement was violated in late July. Then in the middle of August, publicly reported first by Sportico that Tom Dundon is going to be the owner going to buy the team. Then Dundon agrees to buy the team in a formal agreement in September, and that's when we learned that the Cherns are even involved publicly. All this beef was happening behind the scenes. And now here we are in the middle of October, 1 month later, and the lawsuit is dropped, and now Dundon can move forward. What has to happen now, with assuming the Cherns are involved? I don't think it's been reported exactly that they're specifically, yeah, we're still on board, but you would assume if they were announced as part of the ownership group and now this court case has been dropped, why would they drop out now? Right? You'd assume that they're involved and they can move forward with the sale of the team. It has to get past the Board of Governors. They have to vote for the sale, approve the sale to go forward. It was initially reported, I believe, first by The Athletic, that the goal was to have this sale closed by March 31st, 2026. So during the regular season next spring, right around the start of the WNBA season, for those of you scoring at home. And then, so it seems like we're now back on track for that. The Blazers, who knows what Dundon's going to be like as an owner, and positive, negative, whatever. And certainly all, there are reasons to like and dislike any sort of ownership group. Often more reasons to dislike them than like them. But the Blazers need this to be settled. I think the sort of the limbo period with the Allen estate after Paul Allen's passing is just not a good place to be if you're going to be a really competitive team. Getting the sale through, getting this finalized, being able to move forward into a new era with a little more clarity, I think that is a positive. All of that is assuming that the team stays in town, which I believe they will. It'll just be a question of how much public money do local citizens offer the Trailblazers in a public-private agreement to either make massive renovations to the Moda Center or to build a new arena in town. I think that's the last hurdle, and it is a gigantic one, and one we will talk about in the future. The other thing we're going to talk about in the future is predictions. Smart folks, Kevin Pelton, John Hollinger, Nate Duncan, and another guy named Mike have made predictions about the Blazers season, and seemingly with all the good vibes around the Blazers heading into the year, nobody's computer model thinks this team's any good. Or at least they think they're moderately better than last year, or a little bit worse, or about the same. Let's talk about that. Why is the whole world hating? Join me in that second segment. We will talk about just that. First, though, let's talk FanDuel. So it's football season. You might know it. It's here. It's upon us. And FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss because right now, you, dear listener, can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. However you want to make your wagers, parlays, player props, betting games live, money lines, point spreads. Whether you're a casual fan or a diehard, you can find something that might pique your interest over there on FanDuel, and it adds another layer to your viewing experience. So if you're already on the couch, why not check out the other layer? What you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right. So, I was on... I'm going to brag a little bit. I was on another podcast talking about the Trailblazers. I was on Nate Duncan's podcast. I believe it's behind a paywall. If you want to subscribe to Dunked on Prime, you can subscribe and listen to a long chat that I had with Nate. But I'll summarize the very, very end of it for you because I do a podcast every day here. You can check it out. You can hear my thoughts. That's just this is the short form version of that. But we talked about it, and Nate was pretty. He said, I think the Blazers are going to be interesting. I think they should be a top 10 defense. I think that all these things. And then we did our predictions at the end, and Nate Duncan said, I think they're going to win 36 games. Wait, really? That's not the number I expected. I didn't expect it much higher. I didn't expect Nate to pick the Blazers to be a winning team. But after our discussions, I thought he was in the similar range as I was. And I'll tell you my prediction now as well. So I'll tell you in a moment. Let me sort of this sort of piqued my interest, right? Because I'm like, yeah, Nate's smart. Maybe he's a little skeptical of some things the Blazers do, but based on our discussions, I thought we were kind of in the same ballpark. So I was curious what other folks did and other folks predicted. And I typically don't share this stuff with you all because I think some of it is just I don't like sharing things that are intended to be sort of rage bait. I think there's just enough of that in our lives to be like, here's the thing that's going to make you mad. That's not what I want to do here. That's not my goal. I want to make maybe it more interesting to think about the Trailblazers, but I don't want to just be like, everyone's bad and dumb, be angry at them, right? But I was curious what other folks thought when Nate said that his number was at 36. I think I've said on the show out loud a bunch of times my prediction, but I'll repeat it again here. It's 39. But I do think there's an upside world where the Blazers have maybe better health and better than average health, and other teams in the West slip. I think there's an upside world where the Blazers are a 42-win team. I think they win more than half their games. I don't obviously if you think they can win 39, the fact that they won 42 should not be surprising. It's 3 games over an 82-game season. But I have been told in the past when I was a younger reporter, I got some advice from some of my peers, or maybe more at the time mentor types, who were saying don't predict stuff because players listen to it and blah 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 blah, and then and the coaches will hear it, and then they kind of know that what you think of them, and they'll use it, say, oh, you thought we were gonna suck, or and it just makes you, there's no upside for you, right? A couple things have changed. One, maybe I've just gotten older and I'm less worried about that. Two, unless you put this on some sort of big aggregation account on Instagram, no one who plays for the Portland Trailblazers is going to see this. Will look, maybe some of the executives hear it. Yeah, maybe. I think there's some folks in that part of the world who listen to this program. Will some PR staffers hear this? Yes. Hello, Blazers PR staffers. I'm glad you're listening to this at 2.2 speed to get through your morning morning workout. I have the Blazers winning 39 games. But because Nate and I, in our discussion, were in such a similar spot about kind of what we thought they would be. Maybe he was a little lower on their offense, but I think they're going to struggle on offense too. So like, I think we're in the same ballpark. And he was, 3 wins is not a huge number, but it was lower than I thought it would be. I was curious where other folks landed. So I went to the places that you go to find this information. One, Kevin Pelton, who does a sort of his computer rankings projections. And what I really like about Pelton's projections is he uses his sort of, the way it works is he has his own, I believe it's Shaney formula, that it's like his stat space projections. And then he uses a regularized adjusted plus minus RAPM from Christian Narsu. And so that takes the past 3 seasons and says like, hey, we were projecting based on a sort of a larger sample size to like give a like sort of player values. And then he does a baked in sort of injury normalization based on how many games players have played over the last 3 years. And then he projects sort of, he subjectively guesses his own sort of numbers for playing time. So he says like, here's my player ratings, here's someone else's projection of stats, here's what we think they're going to be health wise, and here's who about the minutes distribution I assume based on this, and so you end up with a sort of this numbers based projection. I like it. I like the way Pelton does it because he has the Blazers at 35.8 wins. That's right at the 36 number that Nate Duncan had him at. But like what Pelton says in his little write-up is like, maybe this is a little low, like maybe based on what the Blazers did at the end of last season, maybe this number is a little low. And I kind of like that reasoning. This is like the way I said, like, there is, I don't want to share rage bait with you. Like, I think this is a pretty good example of what I'm trying to say. This is like what, based on sort of, computer numbers based on what the Blazers have done and based on what we assume their health is and what we kind of think young players will do moving forward, the numbers say about 36 wins. And so maybe there perhaps, there's some baked in stuff about the Blazers offense and maybe how not half of last season, they're pretty bad on defense and then they got really good. And like, but the sort of the model sees all 82 games and not all 41. And not just 41, rather, I should say. So, like, I think there's something to that. But the idea that, like, the Blazers did indeed, while the sample says they were this, like, they did indeed maybe discover something, I think is where Pelton points to, is like, this number might be a little low. This team wants to win. They want to compete for a play-in spot and beyond if they can, but they fancy themselves a play-in team, and they were better in the second half of last season. In fact, over the final 41 games last year, the Blazers had a plus 3.3 net rating, which, based on Clean the Glass's your expected win-loss record with a differential like that, if you have a plus 3.3 net rating, according to Cleaning the Glass, that's about a 49-win team. Now, I don't really think the Blazers are a 49-win team this year. I think that's very rich, and I think it's important to know that the final 41 games also, it covers a stretch where teams who are bad really let go of the rope. For instance, during that final 41-game stretch, 6 teams had a differential that suggests that they would win fewer than 21 games, 20 or fewer. During the year, only 3 teams ended up winning 21 or fewer games. So like basically what I'm saying is the bad teams get worse. There are more teams who truly let go of the rope at the end of the year. So like, the sort of, you are going to play some teams that are really not interested in winning. And that's that has, that's the silly season caveat. We talk about it all the time, but that's like some numbers to sort of back that up. But I do think, like, if you think the Blazers took off a little bit last year, there's reason to believe that these numbers, 36 from me, 36 from Nate Duncan, 36 from Kevin Pelton's computer projections, 39 from your boy Mike Richmond, are a little bit low. But nobody seems to think this team is particularly good. ESPN's BPI, which is like their analytics projection, I actually think it does pretty well during the regular season. It's not like perfect because it is a stats-based projection, but it is as far as these things go, it's probably the best publicly available one out there. It has a net points scale, and then so basically what it's showing is your expected point margin versus an average opponent on a neutral court, and then turning that into what what they think you would be, like your net points impact, and then saying, okay, based on that output against an league average opponent and a neutral court, here's what you would be. And ESPN's BPI, Basketball Power Index, has the Blazers at 34 wins, 33.9, projected to be a 12th seed in the West. The computers also are skeptical. And then John Hollinger over The Athletic just wrote out his projections. I assume Hollinger is like, one of the, godfathers of the analytics movements, right? Like he's one of the sort of early guys to do this. I'm sure his predictions include some computer math, but he has the Blazers at finish 14th in the West at 31-51. Holy heckaroni. So I kind of feel like, and Hollinger's write-up, which you can read in The Athletic, is built largely around questions about the Blazers offense. He thinks they're headed to be a bottom 5 offense. I think they might be good on defense, and I could see them being a bottom 5 offense, but if they're like the 5th best defense and the 5th best offense or 5th worst offense, they're still probably going to win more than 31 games. I bet they will. But obviously, like, I don't know, somebody has to lose more, somebody has to take a step back. Some teams take a step forward. What I'm struck by here is like, I feel like locally, talking to my friends, talking to not really people that cover the team necessarily, because I haven't discussed specifically what their predictions are with many of them. But like, just like locally and talking to friends and fans, like, I think I'm pretty low at 39. I feel like some people are like, this team could win 45, 40 games, like 46 games. And I think that's a little bit rich, but it is interesting to me that outside, like all of the computer models think the Blazers are going to be bad, and outside of Portland, everyone thinks this is like a losing team that misses the play-in, and certainly they could be, right? But I think they're pretty comfortably one of the 11 best teams in the West. And if you're comfortably one of the 11 best teams in the West, it's fairly easy for you to end up 10th, but I guess it's also fairly easy for you to end up 12th. That's how it works. For those of you who are like gambling inclined, what do the gambling computers say? FanDuel, sponsor of this very podcast, has the Blazers over-under set right now as I'm recording this. You're listening to Tuesday, October 14th show. This is Monday, October 13th line at 34.5. So like everywhere, nobody thinks the Blazers are going to win any games, or going to win more than half their games. And I'll just say this, and we can move on from sort of the predictions world. I do think the Blazers have warts. I am worried about their half-court offense. I do think that is going to be a challenge, but I've mentioned it a bunch of times on this show. The recent history of the NBA suggests that if you are one of the top 10 defenses in the league, you basically have you basically walk into the play-in. And I think the Blazers are going to be a top 10 defense. I think they're going to make the play-in. I really do think this is the 9th or 10th best team in the West with upside to be more. Obviously, injuries and bad luck, the downside is there for you, right? Because I do think the Blazers are a little bit thin at a couple spots, but yeah, I'm surprised that nobody puts the model in and says like, they were like I'm interested that none of the sort of computer modeling suggests that the Blazers did indeed figure something out last year. The computer modeling is more skeptical. And I think the Blazers have a space and an obvious path to being more competitive than a lot of these numbers say, even more competitive than my own prediction. But I am pretty surprised that at 39, I'm at least 3 wins higher than every other prediction that I kind of looked up here. Obviously, leave your own in the comments if you're inclined. But like, you can also just pretend that you predicted whatever, and whatever number they win at the end of the year, you can say, I called it back in October, and I'll just, sure. I'll allow that too. Okay, let's talk about some injury updates. Toumani Camara, Matisse, Thybulle, and Rob Williams, and ahead of the Blazers' 3rd preseason game. Join me in that final segment of the show. We will talk injuries. First, let's talk Monarch Money. Most folks can't even name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. So whether that's 401ks, properties, or other investments, if you don't know what you have, if you don't have the full picture of what you're working with, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings you It brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, so you can link all your accounts and minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by the good folks over there at Peloton. They're shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, which is powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs, with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. They got the Peloton IQ system is a real-time strength coach. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Plus, they got a swivel screen. It's a game changer. So you can go from running on that Tread Plus, flip that thing around, hop on your mat, and move to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listen to Locked On Blazers. Some injury updates courtesy of Joe Freeman at the Oregonian, who reported from Trailblazers practice today that Toumani Camara did not take part in practice. Nothing from two. He didn't do anything. I would say that puts his chances of playing in Tuesday's not participating at all in Monday's practice. I would say puts Two's chances of participating in the Tuesday meeting with the Golden State Warriors at about zero. I mean, he could, and Chauncey Billups said as much. He told reporters that, like, if Toumani is able to play, he'll play him because he wants to get him out there and run. He wants to see the guys together. Like, he wants to use this time as much as he possibly can in preseason, because it's valuable to, like, see everybody together and how it all fits and works and get everybody, on the same page. But I would say Toumani not practicing is bad news. What happened with Two is he played in on Friday's game against the Kings, and then he came out of the locker room, or he left in the first half and came back to the bench. He had a little wrap on his leg, on his right knee, and then when he came out of the locker room, he did not start the second half. He was, like, in his warm-ups on the bench, but did not start the second half and didn't play at all in the second half. And afterwards, Chauncey Billups, when asked, said, like, oh, he just had a right knee. His knee was a little sore, and so I just didn't want to put him in the game. Just being cautious, no reason. But that, soreness Friday leads to zero participation in practice on Monday. That's not what you want to see. But it doesn't sound like it's a big, it doesn't sound the way that Chauncey Billups answered the questions. It doesn't sound like it is a major concern. But I would say if you're looking for Toumani Camara in Tuesday's game, look later in the week. The other Blazers injury update information, and updates really is in quotes here, but this is courtesy of Joe Freeman, who said that both Matisse, Thybulle, and Rob Williams III went through half-court work following the Blazers practice, which to me means, reading. I've been to Blazers practice not in a long time, actually, but back in my day, is that when the doors opened and media members got in there, that Matisse, Thybulle, and Rob Williams were out on the court getting some work in, and they had not seen that in the past. I would say that's the clarification of what that means, although ask Joe if you're really curious about the specificity there, but that's what he wrote. What he wrote is the following sentence: both players went through half-court work following the Blazers practice. Rob has been, he had knee surgery last year, in the spring, I should say, and he's going through return to injury management. At media day, he was a little bit coy about, like, when he would return, but he has not been cleared for full contact. He says that they've got, him and the Blazers medical staff have a return date in mind, but declined to share when that return date is. And he says, he's good, he's on track, he's doing those things. Matisse Thybulle's injury is a little more mysterious. He's been on the injury report with right knee soreness. He was not mentioned at media day as someone who was dealing with injuries. As far as I know, head of the Golden State Warriors game. He was no one in the press corps, and I may have missed this. I apologize, but from what I can tell, no one in the Blazers who covers the Blazers had mentioned that Matisse Thybulle was hurt, and then all of a sudden he shows up on the injury report on night one, and he has right knee soreness. And then when asked prior to the game against the Kings on Friday, Chauncey Billups said, "Yeah, he's ramping up." Ramping up from what? From having a sore knee? Like what happened? And now he's just getting back to doing half court work, and I'm certain he's not going to play on Tuesday. So I would say good news for Rob. Still puzzling for Tease, and I mentioned that because like Matisse Thybulle had this injury last year, right? Where it's like he had knee surgery, and then he had a really, really bad ankle sprain. He sustains this really bad ankle sprain, and it kept him out for 4 months. And the Blazers were not really forthcoming with a lot of details after a while. They said, hey, in January, it's like he's at the long end of his timeline. He's still going to need a little more time. He didn't return until March. He needed another 2 months. That's sort of the long end of the 2-month timeline. He needed 4 months to come back. So I would just say like the way that they have been a little bit, the Blazers are not alone in their lack of information about injuries. It's pretty common across the league. I would say the Blazers are about average among teams who like share injury information. But it's a bummer for Tease because when he plays, he's so disruptive and good, and he had such a nice stretch to end last season, albeit at the very weird end of the year and in a very small sample of games. But he was hooping then, and like to see him back with this group and how like disruptive and special they could be on defense if he's another part you can bring off the bench, like that really then you really feel good about them being a top 10 defense. If Rob plays, Rob's played over the last 2 seasons with the Blazers. Rob Williams has played a total of 26 games. I'm not penciling him in for big minutes. Like the most games he ever played in an 82 game season is 61 in the 21-22 season, the regular season. Like, he played 52 in the 72 game season right before that, but it's not like he's had when he played 80 games one year. So I think it would be irresponsible to like do any math that says like, well, Rob's going to play 55 games this year. It's just not. Like they're going to be cautious with his return. And when he plays, they're going to be cautious with, how often he plays and how many minutes he plays. But if he gets on the court for a stretch, Rob showed last year that when he plays, he can be really positively impactful. I think he was probably, like, I don't think you can say this just because how little he played, but in his minutes, I think he was the Blazers' best big man. He just didn't play enough for him to be the Blazers' best big man for the whole season because the whole season should count, not just the very limited minutes you are able to play, in my opinion. So that's your injury update. That's what you need to know. That's the show. Come back for tomorrow's show. Blazers play the Warriors. We will recap everything you saw. I guess as far as Warriors news, did you come to the final 2 minutes of this half-hour show for the Blazers to find out what's going on with the Warriors? Of course you did. No Draymond Green, scheduled rest. No Jimmy Butler, ankle sprain. But it does sound like Steph Curry, who did not play in the previous Warriors preseason game, is scheduled to play and expected to play Tuesday against the Trailblazers as of this recording on Monday evening. So that's what you need to know. That's what you'll expect to see. Everything we did see and many other things coming at you after the game. So come back for Wednesday's program. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.